You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radagast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and this is episode 136. Star Citizen 4.6 is live. The Lifeline for Levski and the Clearing the Air event is on. We break down what to run first, plus a deep dive on the new RSI Hermes and a CIG sponsored giveaway of the Hermes. So stay tuned for that piece of information. We're going to tell you how to enter. We're going to tell you when it's going to be drawn, and it could very well be you. Welcome in. There is a lot to discuss given the last time we recorded was January 16th. That was 2 weeks ago. We're about to enter February. This has been a very difficult month to find time to create podcasts. So we're off to a kind of a rough start when it comes to the frequency of posts. But now that the dust is settled, it's no longer my 40th birthday. It's no longer a cruise we have to plan for. Hopefully we can get back on that weekly cadence and have something for you every single Friday. So hopefully stay tuned for that. I'll do the best I can. You guys, it's been a very interesting last couple of days. A little bit of real talk, a little bit of human elements to the podcast. So I think everybody knows I've been employed at Amazon for over 13 years. I'm on my 14th year. I hit 14 years in this November. Well, my wife also has worked for Amazon for 11 years. So she's been right behind me this entire time. My partner in crime in both life and in work. And unfortunately, she was part of the 16,000 individuals that were laid off from Amazon. So where I haven't been laid off, and I'm blessed for that, and, thank the world for that. Thank God for that. It still feels like I was laid off because there's like a whole side of her being laid off that I did not plan for, right? Like moving the kids over from her insurance to my insurance, changing things on like 401ks and stock vests and how all that works. So I know first world issues, like I get it. Like that's very privileged for me to sit here and talk about all of that. And woe is us. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll manage. But it is kind of this like life event that's impacted some of this as well. Of course, we had the cruise, of course, my 40th birthday, just got back from Seattle last week. So it's just been hot and heavy, but what a great time to be in the Star Citizen universe right now. You can say that right now, the patch release, there's a couple of issues, and we'll go through some of that sentiment. It's not the perfect patch. It's not the best patch we've seen. Inventory issues are kind of littered throughout. However, this is my event. Like I loved last year's, as problematic as it was. I loved last year's Race for Stanton event where you had to go across all of Stanton, and turn in freight and turn in cargo to get credit. Well, this is kind of the same event. I actually can't wait to get into it with you. But before we do, we have some admin information to get through. And I'm usually really good about having all this ready to go before I share my screen. But let's actually, I want to do a couple things, actually, if you don't mind. Let me get two pages set up before I just go straight at this. Okay. Here we go. So let me share my first top priority. Top priority is right here, Extra Life. Guys, last episode, again, 2 weeks ago, we made the announcement we were investing another year in this philanthropy. It's like my 8th year doing Extra Life. So when I say another year, it's going to be this from now on. So Extra Life, again, it's a philanthropy that gives money, or that takes the money funnel and delivers dollar for dollar to children's hospitals around the world, actually. And so for us, I set a goal at 2,000. I can explain why I hit that number in the last episode. Feel free to go listen to it. But we're already well on our way to hit that goal. We've already raised $590. Given the ice storm in Texas, we already have $25 as well that will probably transfer over to this. So we'll hit that $600 mark against a goal of 2,000. So this is phenomenal. It's not about the money. It's not about hitting a goal. Anything that we raise for the kids is, and I know that sounds like a billboard, but if you know me, if you've been part of Sulyce Gaming, if you've been part of this podcast, you know it's not a billboard. It's not a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, let's just raise money for a metric I can brag about. You know that I have a soft spot in my heart for kids. I have two of my own. So this is important to me, whether we hit the goal or not. So I just wanted to celebrate that. And then I also want to just go ahead and go into this website and tell y'all how to enter to win the RSI with lifetime insurance, or the RSI Hermes with lifetime insurance and a Star Citizen digital game package. As always, with everything in this podcast, if you want to go and learn more, it's beyondtheversehq.com. You're looking at my screen right now. This is the landing page, beyondtheversehq.com. You're going to see at the very top of the screen, you will see that there's a link that you can click on. That's very, very easy and straightforward. Go ahead and click on that. If you want a direct link, beyondtheversehq.com/giveaway. And that'll take you also to this page just to share what that experience looks like. You're here. It's a cute little video. It's everything you need to know about dates and all of that. There's an engagement question. Please engage. Like, this is what's fun for me. And I actually share some of these responses directly to CIG. I respond back to their email saying, hey, here's kind of a return on their investment. They've given me a ship to give away. I kind of want to give a little bit of qualitative feedback for them as well. So your engagement question answer could very well go right in front of the CIG team. So the rest is pretty straightforward. How'd you hear about this giveaway? There's a drop down box. That's for my own personal just interest of how you heard about it. Otherwise, just like any other giveaway, I think it's pretty straightforward. For me, it's about engagement. It's about really learning from you. I don't get to have obviously a direct face-to-face with you. I don't get to sit down with you and learn more about you. So I try my best to go as far as I can of hearing directly from you. So that's why I have my emails up. That's why I say, please email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. Respond to our Spotify, comment section, because I want to hear from you. I want to listen. There you go. There is a difference between hearing and listening. Not to preach. All right, let's move on. I do want to get into some of the polls. Now, again, 2 weeks worth of content. We're going to be going a little bit fast through maybe the second week ago. We're going to get through some of that old news very quickly. And so we can get in some of this new content. But I did ask a couple of polls. I think four polls over on social media that I just wanted to share with you and kind of respond to. It's one of the things I always promise whenever I ask these questions. I will say this. On social media, I like to provoke conversation, right? I think provoke kind of has a negative connotation. I don't want to piss people off for the sake of making people mad. But I do like to provoke that dialogue, right? That is the whole purpose of a podcast, is to really get you to think and really respond to something. Well, I try my best to keep my personal opinion out of those social media posts so that people can come to the podcast, and if they want to hear my thoughts, they can. So that's kind of the philosophy behind what I do. And so let me share my screen for this first post. Again, this was asked on January 20th. That's 10 days ago. Almost 2,000 views. It's 1,997 views. So let's say 2,000 views, 375 votes. My question was about the full wipe. There's this kind of theme that is that's coming out of 2956 or 2026 of when is there going to be a wipe? It's like this big deal. Everybody's talking about it. And so I just flat out asked the question. I tried not to answer it myself, but we know one is coming. We know a full wipe is absolutely necessary. Forget about crafting and the economy, forget about all of that, but the duping and the exploits that have been happening Once CIG solves those issues created and exponentially made worse by the community, once they solve that, then I think it'll be time for a full wipe. And I do fully support a full wipe. So let me just preface that. But we know one is coming, but when do you think it'll be? When do you think the economy needs its wipe the most? And so here are the responses. Again, 375 votes, 38.1% of you say crafting. So when crafting comes, full-blown wipe. 29.6% say before crafting. 24.3% say after crafting. And then 8% of you say, it's fine. We don't need a wipe. Where I wholeheartedly disagree that the economy doesn't need a wipe. I don't want to disrespect that response. I mean, it's 8% of 375 votes. The economy needs it, right? They can do as much work and as much growth in the economy as they want, but it's not going to matter if somebody's sitting there with, multiple billions of dollars of UEC and every single item in the game that was able, I don't know, there's an exploit of going to the new ASD centers and Nicks and searching underneath the kiosk in order to unlock an elevator. And people have just been rotating through that to get gear and loot. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that an exploit. I wouldn't call that necessarily negative or bad behavior. So I'm not passing judgment for a lot of people who have done that. But it's once you super saturate the economy with all of these items and then you sell it on UEX and whatever nonsense comes out of that, it does destroy the economy. So I will say this. I will say that the question itself is a little bit biased because I did hint that it's centered around crafting. But I do think that's the case. When you talk about getting blueprints and you talk about getting ingredients and materials in order to craft, the next best item or something that's, let's call it rare. If somebody is sitting on a gold mine, an entire primary residence inventory full of materials and ingredients, day one, they're going to be able to go out and hack away the best items upon receiving the blueprints. But you kind of get where I'm saying. There's a race and they're already going to be there. I think that's not, I don't want to use the word fair, but I don't think that is ethically correct for gamers. I think there needs to be this massive wipe. Those exploits need to be corrected. And then we all start from square one. Now, if that conversation triggers you and you're like, oh, I don't want to wipe. I like my gear. I like my loot. I like my drip. If that's you, again, that's fine. But just a reminder, it's going to happen in 1.0 anyways. So you might as well not get attached to your items yet anyways. Because when 1.0 does come about 30 years from now, you're going to lose it all anyways. So the other side of that coin, though, is, you should still play the game. It's not like you shouldn't play the game in fear of or the expectation of losing your inventory. So look, it's a dichotomy. I think there's two sides to this and both sides can be correct. I just think the full wipe conversation is a very interesting one. Not the purpose of this podcast, but just interesting to get the creative juices and the thinking juices flowing. All right, next question. Sharing my screen, which is a really funny GIF on the bottom. So just ignore that and try to pay attention. All right, so CitizenCon or SquadCon this year. All right, I'm in Seattle. I'm bored. First off, it got delayed. That's a whole... Here, hold on. It's a whole nother conversation, guys. All right. Back in November of last year, Q4 of 2025, I think y'all know that I was planning on going to this massive Amazon business convention. And because of the government shutdown, my flight was canceled 5 times. And I eventually wasn't able to go. My plan was to go home and record this podcast, beautiful presentation, and be able to present it virtually. But by the time, and I did do it, I finished the product. By the time I finished, our director came out and said, nope, we need people in person. Go ahead and just sit this one out. So I'm just sitting there with this really good product, really good quality product, and not able to contribute. So that was a whole thing in Q4 of last year. Well, fast forward. My second attempt at going to Seattle, I was delayed because of the ice storm, because of the weather. Actually, that is not true. It had something to do with that, but the main issue was like engine failure. So we were on the tarmac, literally next in line to go, and we end up coming back, which is a pretty typical story. But we find out that it's the actual left engine that just failed. Like, what in the world? Like, you don't know that that's the case before you even depart from the gate. That's a little it's a little concerning, not to scare anybody who might be traveling soon, but good God. Like, I feel like an engine failure has a little bit of a preview before you're about to take off. So like, that was the whole thing. We were delayed by 4 hours. I didn't get in until like 1 a.m. in Seattle. Okay, so there's the context. Back to the question. Good God. All right, so I'm bored. I'm sitting in the freaking airport. I'm waiting for 4 additional hours. So I wanted to ask the question just randomly. Nothing provoked it, but what's happening this year? Are we doing a citizen con? Are we doing a squad con? What are your thoughts? Now, this, well, probably because of the time that I sent it, but this was only 686 views, 101 votes, still legitimate. But 38.6% of you say there's going to be a citizen con in person, right? 26.7% of you say it's going to be a citizen con, but virtual. Only 23.8% of you say squad con in person, so something that's Squadron 42 related. And then 10.9% of you say squad con virtual. I might have said this before, or you might have heard me on Space Tomatoes podcast, but I do think if CIG's intent is to release Squadron 42 this year, I think they need to go big. And part of that go big package has to be a Squadron 42 convention. So maybe it's Citizen Con, but it's very, very heavily themed in Squadron 42. And honestly, it should be 100% Squadron 42 if it in fact is coming out in Q4 of this year. I mean, it's a whole nother debate, right? But I think we've spent a lot of intellectual capital in time on podcasts kind of explaining how we feel about Squadron 42 and its release. What are your thoughts? There's plenty of places for you to like leave your thoughts. So YouTube comment section, email us. Very interested to hear. All right, we got a couple more polls. I got 2 more polls real quick. I'm gonna go through them fast. The 4.6 patch day with the clearing the air event coming through Q1. So it's actually up until March. We got a CIG sends their official content creators. They send us kind of this quick little email that summarizes everything. Clearing the air is going to like mid to late March. So this is going to take us through Q1. And some of you have already completed the entire event. So, and I'm almost there, so I'm one of them. So this is day, 2 or 3? 1 second. Ooh, that was a delayed sneeze. All right. So some of us are already done with it, and we have until the end of March to get this completed. Anyways, what will be your primary means of accruing reputation? So we're going to go through what that even means. What is clearing the air? How do you get things accomplished, and what it all involves? But 54.4% of you say transport. You're going to go the transport route first, right? This is about prioritizing, not what you're only going to do and then stop. So transport is number 1. 32.2% of you say the defense route, and then 13.4% of you say collections. That tracks. I think that tracks, especially with the RSI Hermes, which is a cargo variant of the Apollo chassis. I think transport is kind of the main, the main effort. I need to be careful with how I say that, because it's not like they hinted that it's the main effort or they kind of push you that way. It just ends up inevitably being transportation or cargo hauling. But transport, that kind of makes sense. If you want to change things up and kind of make things more interesting, take a break and go do defense. Now, if you want a chilled experience where you sit back with a nice bourbon, I got an E.H. Taylor here on the desk. If you just want to have that like vibe session, there's always collections for you as well, which is like salvaging, mining, refining, that kind of game loop. So we'll get into more of what that means and what the goal is here in a couple of seconds. But I thought that was super interesting. And the last question that I asked, again, all this pertains to the content we're discussing on the podcast. There has been inventory issues. A lot of them. So in Sole Provision, our in-game organization, we have several individuals, one of my officers included, who just logged into 4.6 with no inventory. Nothing. They looked in and they have their, like I forgot what it's called, the alpha undersuit with a little pistol on the side and like some makeshift horrible helmet. And that's it. That's all they had. And what's funny about this is this happened to one of my officers who they play for the drip. Like they play for those hard to get armors and like Wicklow sets and all of that. And they logged in without any of it. So I can understand the animosity that the community has towards not having inventory. So I fully kind of support the sentiment that came out of missing inventory. But I asked the question, declare your inventory status here. Of course, ensure a ticket has been submitted for actual CIG action. But here you are. And this was asked yesterday. So 1.2 thousand views, 165 votes. 63.6% of you say you're good to go. So you didn't have inventory issues. Okay. 17.6% logged in without any inventory. No inventory at all whatsoever. 13.9% say partial inventory. So maybe they have their pledge items, but they don't have their persistent in-game items from patch to patch. So I'm thinking like hard to get Wicklow armor, some of the paints for the ships. Some of that was, there and not there. Right. And then 4.8%, this is interesting. 4.8% of you say it's present, but you cannot access it. And like, that was honestly me for a couple of hours, maybe not yesterday. It was like literally on patch day where I was able to log in. I was able to see my inventory, but the moment I tried to equip, it would equip to my body, but then reset back to the inventory. Like no matter how many times I would click and drag, and that's freaking annoying. So, so definitely inventory issues. To celebrate CIG, look, I'm not a white knight, but I try my best to like celebrate when something good happens. Like let's take our wins with, Star Citizen. They were able to fix it within like a day and a half. So those individuals in my organization for last night's org night, they got their inventory like later last night. So they fixed it. It seems like they fixed it. But why is it happening regardless? And let me just respond emotionally. I actually don't understand. So, and again, kind of some context. I have been involved with Amazon Game Studios. I was involved in New World, and I do understand game development. Like I would say better than most. Excuse me. But it is so strange to me how the player experience can differentiate that much. Like I know we're in alpha. Like I know backend systems are still being matured. Like Roger. I also know that there's a client side issue, like with your own setup, like what kind of CPU or GPU you're running or what kind of internet connectivity. Like I get it, guys. I get it. But what continues to baffle me is when it's like on CIG's side. Like why in the world is my experience with inventory or freight elevators or whatever, why is my experience so much different than somebody else's experience? And I know it's not client side. Like, it blows my mind. I cannot explain, and I don't think anybody at this point can explain what you should do with your LTP, right? With your long-term persistent items. Do you store your ship, or do you take all of the components off and put it in your inventory and then store your ship? Do you, I don't, is there some code you have to write in the freaking script? Like, I don't know. Like, I have no freaking idea, but everything that we thought was the standard, some of those individuals lost everything. And I didn't do a damn thing. I didn't change anything. Like I kept all of my hard to get components on my ships, logged into 4.6 and poof, it's there. Like I had no issues. I don't understand. I don't want to like belabor that too much, but it still blows my mind. But it's fine. Squadron 42 will be out in a couple months. Okay, so let's go back 2 weeks ago. We are going to talk Alpha 4.6, what it means, what's all in the patch, but what better way than let's just get into the actual Inside Star Citizen. Now, this wasn't this week. We didn't have an Inside Star Citizen this week, but 2 weeks ago they did. There was an Alpha 4.6 patch report. We're going to watch it together. It's a quick one. It's 8 minutes-ish, but I will say Jared goes into a lot of really good information of what we can expect for the entire year. So it's not just singular with the 4.6 patch, but what we can expect from a cadence perspective and some other gold nuggets. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to watch it together. I think my audio settings have reset. So if the initial volume is like really loud, I just have to make some adjustments right in the middle of showing the video. So here we go. I'm going to, I'm going to go ahead and just do it from here. So here we go. Sharing my screen, hitting play.
Each year of Star Citizen brings with it a new beginning, including new content, new opportunities, and oftentimes a few new ways of doing things. It's an essential element of Star Citizen's DNA, where we don't just build the game out in front of everyone, we continue to review, refine, and redirect our efforts, as well as the very manner in which we make our games along the way. In 2025, this saw the biggest change to our development strategy yet, where new content rose to the forefront while feature work was allowed the time necessary to cook behind the scenes, where dedicated strike teams were formed to deal with the biggest issues at hand, and the patch cadence changed from once every quarter to once every month. It was an exciting year, and now into 2026, we continue our yearly evolution as we head into the upcoming Alpha 4.6. Now, instead of a patch every month or every quarter, this year we'll introduce a new bi-monthly patch cadence, which is one every 2 months for those of you who appreciate homonyms. No? That means that you're going to see big releases like 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 and the like in January, March, and May, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And between those patches, we're going to try a new initiative that'll still deliver smaller chunks of in-game content to keep things interesting, like the recent pricing surge on commodities from last week. And in the future, new mission contracts, new loot, and even new spaceships, and all without the need for a big, mega, full patch release. It's an exciting experiment, and one that we're eager to undertake as we continue our journey to 1.0 with a year of patches aiming to deliver more feature improvements like inventory rework, crafting, which, if everything works out, should be in tech preview soon or by the time this airs, instancing, Genesis planets, and more, alongside the content that we showed at CitizenCon Direct, like Rock Cracker, Tactical Strike Groups, and Municipal Works. So, with all that said, let's go ahead now and take a look at some of what Alpha 4.6 has in store for us, and not just with its intended release next week, but throughout this February and into March. Up first, the local inhabitants of Levski are falling sick with a mysterious ailment called the People's Ailment, seemingly caused by the new strain of mold growing in the faulty air filters of Geisen Incorporated. Symptoms include coughing, chest pain, and fatigue. This mold is super resistant and forcing the free and independent people of Levski to reach out to the UEE for help. Now, it's up to contractors like you to race against the clock and save as many folks from fungal fatalities as possible. And, of course, pick up some rewards along the way, like this cool new medical-themed armor set, med gun, ship paints, and more. And in feature work, the first iterations of cockpit light amplification are also rolling out for select spacecraft. It's an exciting step forward in addressing one of the oldest struggles pilots have when flying or driving around the dark side of our planets and moons. And like most new features in Star Citizen, this will continue to evolve, improve, and expand to additional vehicles in subsequent patches. And look at all the different colors. And speaking of the oldest struggles, the Aurora, classic ship from RSI, heart of our original crowdfunding campaign and most owned vehicle in the verse, is finally getting its gold standard pass in Alpha 4.6, bringing it to feature and function parity with today's latest and greatest for those pilots who enjoy flying a true Star Citizen classic. And alongside this, we're finally delivering many of those outstanding campaign paints to go with it, like the Pirate Paint, the Operation Pitchfork paint, the South by Southwest 2015 paint, the Electro Hull paints, and more. For 4.6, these will be delivered exclusively to those OG backers who earned them by supporting the original campaign, but may become available in limited supply later this year if there's enough interest. I suspect you can let us know on Spectrum, Reddit, and social. And in additional content stuffs, those cool holographic skull helmets we came up with so long ago are finally being delivered to our development subscribers. I'm excited because I've been wanting to recreate that Skeletor meme on social with it since we first unveiled it. There should be memes here, unless we couldn't think of any. There's also offerings from everyone's favorite band who, look. It's the only band who you know, technically, who has these nifty new armor and weapon variants available as well. And the debut of the upcoming RSI Hermes, which you'll see fully and learn more about next week. But as we said at the top of the show, 4.6 doesn't stop when it releases next week. That's because about 2 weeks after that, we'll see the unlocking of new faction-based introductory and advanced mining and salvage missions to better guide new players through the two popular professions, as well as provide additional opportunities to existing players. There's our annual Coremore event that encourages folks to spend their lives in the verse with someone special, and it arrives with a host of goodies to acquire. Red Festival returns with its super cool red and gold paints, as well as new decal or not variants for those who prefer a cleaner look to your spacecraft paints. Another limited time change to vendors like the recent pricing surge, but this time discounting vehicles sold through in-game shops.
Who's that spaceship mine?
And finally, another new ship with a familiar silhouette makes its debut weeks later in the 4.6 era. So what's it called and what's it do? Well, I'm not gonna tell you, because I'm not sure we're getting away with that whole what's that spaceship mine thing. So come back in a few weeks to find out. Ultimately, 4.6 is the start of a new season of Star Citizen content that will continue to expand the story and gameplay of Nyx, the features and capabilities of the universe itself, and the continuing development of the project as a whole. And as far as shows like this are concerned, well, I'm happy to report that we're going back to weekly from now on. So whether that's ISC, SEL, BTS, or whatever a particular episode is called, we'll be back with something to share each and every week that we can. I've missed you. And one of you sent me a giant wooden hammer, which kind of feels like a threat. But I'm gonna try my best. See you next week.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, hey, real quick, I have to check something. Because I think I'm just gonna see something. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I did some editing a couple of days ago, and I took my camera off of the screen share. I was like, did I ever put it back on? Completely digress. Okay, let's respond to the video. Okay, so there's a couple cadence things. Like I initially took that as an Inside Star Citizen every single week this year. No, it's one show that they're going to present each week. So 2 weeks ago, Inside Star Citizen. This week was the Behind the Ships. So that's the cadence that he's talking about. So something to expect. I love it. Like, I absolutely love when they get they get developers on and get their creative content. There you go, in front of us. So yes, awesome. We know about the RSI Hermes, so obviously that was not really a surprise if you just listened to it for the first time, which is funny because when they originally showed, it looks like the Apollo in that video. That was actually the Hermes. It didn't have the Apollo like logos on the side or anything. So they kind of already showed us a little bit of what to expect from the Hermes as well. I completely forgot some of the other things that came with 4.6, like the lamp system. I actually haven't even touched it since last night. Or until last night. So I spent maybe 2 days in 4.6 before I remembered that was a thing. And I was in the L22 Alpha Wolf, but up in space, and was like, oh, okay. Like, I forgot that was a thing. I hit right Alt and L, and yeah, it amplifies everything. Now, it's not night vision. I think we need to call it what it is. It literally is just like a filter that they put on the game. So it's not like infrared. It's not going to highlight enemies that are, hiding behind trees in a forest. Like, I don't know. We have to call it what it is. It is a light amplification system. So I like it. I think they did a really good job. Like the canopy that's in front of you when you first get in has the lamp system turned on, and as it closes, that additional piece will complete the lamp image. So I think they did a really good job with the attention to detail. So kudos to CIG. Again, I think it's a perfectly acceptable system. I think the next iteration is like the white hot infrared. Like, that needs to be the next thing. But let's do one small step at a time, right? All right, 4.6. We are in it. Here's the landing page for Lifeline for Levski. All right, you've been exposed to Melina. Basically, this is the COVID-19 patch. I know it's caused by like mushrooms tracking, not bats from the Wuhan lab or whatever. And this is mushroom based, I guess. Spore exposure has created headaches, depression, joint aches, chronic fatigue, trouble breathing. I mean, those are the symptoms of COVID. Luckily, we're several years removed, so I think people can take this with a little bit more of a lighter heart. But here we go. Like this is the event. I guess I could go ahead and show the news flash.
This is James Harriman with another SSN Newsflash. Reports continue to rush in following the outbreak of a new and devastating disease set to overwhelm Levski. As cases of infection accelerate in NICS, the UEE advises extreme caution when traveling to the area. If you have had possible exposure to faulty Geisen air filtration systems and are experiencing any of the following symptoms, the UEE urges you to seek medical help immediately. These are headaches, depression, joint aches, chronic fatigue, and trouble breathing. As the death toll continues to climb, the People's Alliance have issued a plea for volunteers to help Alliance Aid in managing this spiraling situation. Until next time, this is James Harriman reporting.
Like, tell me that's not COVID 2956. Okay, newsflash. All right, here's the deal. If you go back in time, if you were here last year and you did the race for Stanton, supplier die? Is it race for Stanton or supplier die? I might be confusing two events, but y'all know what I'm referencing, right? Where you were delivering cargo for a faction and getting rewards, for milestones. That is this event. Now there's kind of a difference to this though, because you've got an overall tracker towards like the overall goal. There's like a total, and that total of 100% is broken into smaller milestones, right? So you see that personal total. This is the personal total. So for 30%, no matter what you choose, 30% is this like red armor. The 70% is a whole paint. 90% is another whole paint, and 100% is a hull paint, a paramedic device, and what in the world is this third one? I think it's on the Spectrum post, but like it's a crafting station. Heck yeah, it's a crafting unit. So it's a special crafting unit. So, oh my God, I guess I didn't realize that. You want to get 100% because of the damn crafting unit. 4.7 more than likely is the crafting patch, which is coming in March, if you paid attention to the Inside Star Citizen. So we could very well have crafting, and this could be your crafting unit, right? Based off of the Alliance Aid. So there is your overall personal total. Now, depending on which path you take to get there, right? Transport, collections, or defense, you can get other rewards as well. So the meta is do all of it, right? It's because you want to get all this gear and all the paints, right? You do. But if you have like one design flair that you're going for specifically, obviously pick that and prioritize that. But you have until March. You've got the rest of Q1 to get this squared away. So again, as you see on my screen, there's armor, or there's clothing, right? I don't think it's armor. It's straight up clothing. You get a mask for collections. You get a two-hander grav gun or tractor beam in transport. It looks like you get armament or guns for your ships if you're defense. And then the 100% award, again, paint, and paint. So I think it's the only way to get these items. They're exclusive for this event. You allegedly can't get this, at any other point of time, but more than likely, like we've seen in the past, they will eventually become available to get later, probably. So let's just move on. Let's just pretend like we aren't expecting that. Like with every patch release, there's new ships, not new ships. There's more available ships in the pledge store. I think you know what I'm trying to say. So 10 vehicles are now available in the pledge store that maybe aren't always. So the Apollo Medevac, the Triage, the Asgard, the Titan, the Avenger Titan, the Hermes. We know obviously about that. The Hull A and the Paladin Perseus Prospector. Oh, and Reft. My apologies. So there's your 10 vehicles. It seems like a pretty light patch, but there is actually a lot. There's actually a lot to it. And again, I was reminded in the Inside Star Citizen of the additional things. It's super interesting. Sorry, I stopped sharing my screen. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Here's a Spectrum post that is aligned with the landing page. Again, this is where I would tell new players, or if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, wait, what did Sulyce say about this? Or what did the Inside Star Citizen say about that? Come to the Spectrum link here, and they have links to like the source material, right? So if you want the official landing page, that's the first link. The YouTube trailer, the patch notes, all of it is right here. So save this, bookmark it. I personally have all of these bookmarked for every patch. So I have a way of kind of going back in time to seeing what was available when. So I'm going to keep sharing my screen. We're going to go to the FAQ section for clearing the air. So this is the clearing the air event. Guys, it is synonymous with the Alliance Aid. So you've got clearing the air, Alliance Aid, people's ailment. Like it's all, you're going to hear it kind of interchangeably. I was personally annoyed about that at first, but I think you can easily get over that quickly. So what is the event? Like here is the January 28th. Again, that email that we got from CIG, from the content creator perspective, says all the way until to mid to late March. So, it's right here, March 17th. Okay. So, whoops. Yeah. So March 17th, there's your mid-March. Easy. All right. How can I complete the missions? I could read all this to you. Let me just tell you about my experience. I think that's better. I'll pull this up so you can kind of look at it as I talk to you. But so when the patch first dropped, I took my time. I knew I wanted to do cargo hauling because it was super chilled and it's one of my favorite game loops. It is very easy. You open up your contracts manager in your mobiGlas. You go into that, you find Alliance Aid, so priority, Alliance Aid. And when I logged in, there was like 17 or 18 of them. So you have plenty to choose from. And you're looking for like actual cargo hauling. Like sometimes it'll say cargo hauling or just hauling or interstellar hauling. Like you're looking for those keywords. There are other like delivery missions that aren't necessarily transport. So you need to make sure that you read. It might be a defense where you're going to a place and fighting your way to a package, but then you're taking that package somewhere. So you got to make sure that you're doing the right event if you're really pursuing one of these categories rewards. So just be mindful of that, right? So it is pretty straightforward. Once you unlock a few, you're going to unlock a lot more. So again, I had like 15 to 18 missions to choose from. If I were to log into the game right now, I'm over 30 or 40. So it does like exponentially grow. And I'm going to come off screen share so I can look at the camera. This is another example of us wanting and needing filterable, good Lord, inventories and filterable contracts. Like I have 50 available priority missions. I would love to be able to filter those by what I was looking for. And I'm talking like a cargo hauling filter. I want Stanton. I want the departure to be out of the Crusader system. I don't really necessarily, I mean, we could also say an arrival. So departure filter, an arrival filter. Like I want to be able to plan my route a lot better than I can right now. It is so difficult to get like an entire play session planned out. It is very difficult. So anyways, that is the experience that you can expect. It's easy, it's straightforward, it's fun. The missions are shareable. So last night's org night, we had 20 to 25 of us. We all took individual contracts. I think there were a couple of small teams here and there, but we all kind of scattered. We split up into 3 groups. We had transportation, collections, and defense. And as we took a mission, we shared it to all 20, 25 of us. Well, in one night, I'm basically done. I have all of collections, the majority of transport, and maybe just, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 more events for defense, and I'll be done with the mission. And I want to kind of do the rest myself. I don't really want to do the whole sharing method to finish it out, but that is probably the meta. That is the min-max that I would highly encourage you do. Here's something cool though. What I've enjoyed about last year's race for Stanton in this year's People's Ailment or Clearing the Air event, I love what it does to the community. So we consistently hear on social media, we hear griefing, we hear these negative stories about people not wanting PvP and they get butthurt because they get screwed out of. I've been there. I've been one of those people that like, I don't want to jack with somebody and I leave a system completely getting owned by, something I shouldn't be owned by. It's like an Aurora taking me out and I'm in a Perseus. Anyways, so we always hear those stories, but these kinds of events, it provokes like, I want to say like the best in us. Like I heard a lot of stories coming out of yesterday where the entire general chat would partner in a party, right? They'd all come together into a party. Somebody would go into general chat saying, hey, who's doing these missions? And they would get added to a group that was already formed, 100 people in a party. And they were doing exactly what I just explained. They were sharing all these missions. People were completing the event in 30 minutes to an hour. Where you can kind of see that as like cheesing the mission and rushing through something that's supposed to last you to mid-March. I don't know. I think the win here isn't really on the individual getting the rewards. The win here is on the community and seeing that camaraderie. That's like, hey, we're in this together. Let's just knock this crap out. And taking that like one additional very light lift step of being in a party with people you don't know in order to accomplish this overall mission. I love that. It happened last year during that event. It's happening this year right now. I think that's something that needs to be celebrated. Truly. So I wanted to take a second and look at the camera. It is a very important thing that we need to call out from the community. So good job, community. Kudos. Credit where credit is due. Let's talk RSI Hermes. The RSI Hermes is a freaking phenomenal ship. We're going to watch the Behind the Ships episode. We're going to quickly kind of go through the Q&A. I don't spend a lot of time on the Q&A. I think getting in the cockpit and actually flying it takes time, and really it does. It takes time to iron out how we feel about the ship and what its capabilities are. So I'm going to respond to that kind of quickly. We're going to end up with a roadmap roundup, the In Case You Missed It event, the International Bar Citizen, and like I said, we're going to end it at that point. So let me go ahead and start playing this video. I got to switch the audios, and then I'll share my screen.
What can you tell me about the Greek god Hermes?
History question.
I have absolutely no idea.
I will say the wrong thing, and then the internet will be mad at me.
Did he carry cargo on his shoulders? I don't know. Pull a cart? Was he the god of goods?
Hermes was the herald of the gods and considered the protector of the human heralds, so responsible for people traveling from one location to another and moving things around.
Perfect.
The Hermes is RSI's first dedicated medium freighter. We were discussing new ships quite some time ago, and at that point we were developing the Apollo, and the Hermes seemed a natural chassis alteration for the Apollo series.
With the RSI Apollo, it was received very well in terms of its styling, and really what we wanted to do was take those visuals and just make it available for a new audience.
The main distinguishing feature of the Hermes is it has much larger, beefed up thrusters visually on the outside.
It needs a lot of power to move that weight around. One of the things we wanted to try and convey with its visuals was this idea that it had a lot more strength than what the base Apollo did. So if you look at the very top of the ship, you'll notice that where there's a big window in the Apollo, you're seeing much more of the kind of like the inner structure of the ship. So it's reinforced with large girders and these big metal plates that make it feel a lot stronger.
Whilst its official designation is a medium freighter, the Hermes is sort of internally often referred to as a sort of blockade runner. It is great performance in a straight line with those extra beefy thrusters. It has some good armor. Obviously the weapons are all upgraded compared to the Apollo series. It has 16 S-2 missiles. It can pack a punch while providing very competitive SCM and nav speeds at the expense of some maneuverability. Inside, the front half of the ship shares virtually everything with the Apollo series, and that is your bridge and habs and component room, but the back half is a completely different story.
It's pretty obvious that things have changed. It basically strips out any of the interior that isn't essential to the ship's flight and replaces it with a large cargo space.
Capable of holding 288 SCU, and that includes being able to hold the 32 SCU crates. There isn't a lot of ships in that 200 to 300 SCU cargo range. You have the Raft series that's down at 192, and then you have sort of the Caterpillar series that is 500 plus. There isn't really many ships in that middle zone. The Hull B is moving up to 512. That was sort of the closest. But of course the Hermes carries all of its cargo internally compared to say the Hull series, which has it all external and much more vulnerable.
One of the things we realised when we were developing the ship was having a cargo space that is quite short but very wide, and then trying to bring the cargo into the space was quite difficult. So our design team came up with this idea of having this tracked beam that ran on a rail through the centre of the cargo space. And that really allows you to be able to pull that cargo in quite easily.
And the tractor beam can be controlled from either the co-pilot seat or a dedicated station at the rear of the ship. So if you've ever had problems playing cargo Tetris, then the Hermes might be the ship for you.
So So in terms of paints on the Hermes, the default paint is kind of a nod back to the Zeus CL, so another cargo ship from RSI. We thought it'd be nice to kind of continue that theme and that brand recognition across the cargo ships on the RSI lineup. The Apollo was quite a serious ship, so for the paints for the Hermes, we thought we'd have a bit more fun. We've got a nice two-tone black and yellow. We've got a purple, yellow and white. And because Jared cries when we don't, and he's quite persistent at coming and appearing at my desk, we also did the disco paint that we did for the RSI Meteor. So it builds on that brand recognition, and it keeps Jared happy.
Yay!
This ship is obviously for those focused on cargo hauling, but you can also fit quite a lot of our smaller ground vehicles in there, so it's a great little ship to reposition things around. A lot of people have said that they love the Apollo's look but don't like the medical gameplay, so this really is the ship for those people. It's fast, sleek, and is very just versatile ship, so I think people are going to enjoy it.
It really is a phenomenal ship. Given the time, and again, we tried to do the podcast within an hour. I'm not going to go through and watch the commercial with y'all. Feel free. The commercial is absolutely worth watching. They did a lot of good work in that couple of seconds, like a minute and a half, 2-minute video. So please watch it. It's worth it. It's right here. Click on this button. But overall reaction. So it's funny when you access the terminal in the back, you lose your head. So you're standing here and your visual is now of the turret, so the tractor beam turret. And so you're able to look around and see your body at the terminal. But for me, every time I've used it, I've lost my head. So there's a graphic, we'll call it opportunity, for them to solve. So that's kind of a thing. You do have to get used to it. So you're in the back. It's on a rail system. So if you're in the let's call it the forward of the garage, you have to hit the S key, and then you'll move to the aft of the garage, and you're able to control it. It's still super sensitive. You have to change your settings to make sure you're not like a slight move of the mouse will completely make the thing go haywire. So it's a little wonky, but once you get the settings like lined up, it is a great ship. Now you can't do a medium to large ground vehicle into the back of it. So there's a little bit of a community reaction there where they wish that you could put one of the larger, vehicles in the back like you can in Asgard. So there is a desire there. But you are able to do the small vehicles like you saw in the video. Historically, I haven't gone through like Q&As again. Like I like to get into the ship and fly it myself for a little bit. But like I hinted at earlier, there's a lot of fun to be had. Like I spent the entire first day of the event 100% in the Hermes. It's probably too much ship to run the 40K like transport missions, but I would stack every 40K transport mission into like my queue, and I would just take the Hermes around and accomplish everything. And it is fairly easy to do by yourself. You don't necessarily have to have a second or third person to help. So there it is. I highly recommend it. Again, the giveaway, a reminder, go to beyondtheversehq.com/giveaway for your chance to win your own RSI Hermes. The price point is around $200. It's like $200 for war bond, meaning new money. I think it's $210 or $220 for like a trade-in. So if you're going to use ship credits or store credit, or you're going to ship upgrade, know that its value is like $220. All right, let's keep going. Roadmap Roundup. There are a few gold nuggets here. We don't care about 4-6. We just saw it. 4-7 is going to have additional missions, additional locations, and new armor. So let's go through it. You have a QV breaker stations that are going to be added to Nyx. You've got, let me just move on to the next one. The People's Service Stations. They're your locations. QV breaker stations and the People's Service Stations. there you go. There's new missions. So you've got Nyx missions, adding a second pack of the new missions to Nyx. New Wicklow offerings, like always, new hairstyles. We can't have enough customization of your player avatar. And then I thought this was interesting, but new heavy armor and new light armor. So implementing a heavy armor to the persistent universe and implementing a light armor to the persistent universe. So awesome there. Spectrum Post, as always. I prefer the Spectrum Post. It's without the cosmetics, and I think it's pretty straightforward as well. Let me just keep sharing my screen to like wrap this one up. Here's your, in case you missed it. So this is from January. Ooh, hold on. Where are the dates? The dates have got to be here somewhere. It doesn't look like there's dates. I know right now you're able to pick up everything that came out January through October, excluding the Aegis Idris and the Atlas Geo. Excuse me. All right. I don't have the dates here. So what if I hit browse now? I want to provide that to you. I'll tell you what, I'll put it on my socials, or I'll put it in my socials. I'll put it in the show notes as well. But just know that it's live right now. Just unsure of when it's live until. So pick up your ship that you've always wanted between now and, I don't know, as soon as possible. How's that? Bar Citizens. So international Bar Citizens were released from yesterday. I think this was yesterday. So what they do, this isn't the only events that CIG will be at, but this is like their deliberate schedule. So they're committing to these dates and locations. So Australia, Europe, we can go through all these. But I wanted to call out 2. They're going to be at TwitchCon this year. And it'll be very interesting in May when they're here in Europe, or when they're there in Europe in May, to see what they present, if they're even presenting at TwitchCon. But you've got that one. And then you've got the United States one that's happening way down here. Where are we at? TwitchCon San Diego in November. And again, most of us are suspecting a Squadron 42 release in Q4. So maybe in May is when they tease it at that TwitchCon. And maybe November 13th and 15th, it's a bigger presentation. So I think that's, I don't know, complete prediction. No intel tells us that it's happening or whatever. But I think it's interesting that they call out both TwitchCons in Europe and the United States. Then, of course, if you're close to yours truly in Austin, Texas, CIG will be here on June 13th through 14th. More details coming, obviously. So I will be there. I'll try my best to be there. I would love to meet y'all face to face. So try to be part of that. And we're going to wrap up like we always do with looking at the Spotify polls and the Spotify comments. And then, like I said, we're going to wrap this one up. So in the polls, I asked, there's a 2956 check-in. How are you running Star Citizen this year as an org crew member, 50%, or solo in a small group in 50%, right? Not a lot of you are org leadership or org leaders, and not a lot of you are looking for an org. I would suspect that a lot of you that are listening are already part of Soul Provision. And if you're not and you want to be, soulprovision.com. That's SOL, provision.com. All right, comment section. We're moving. Here we go. We have just 2. So Billy the Beast writes, happy belated birthday. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then Noah writes, thanks for the episode. I'm happy that they are diversifying their in-game events, especially into commodity trading and hauling. That stuff is not often given much attention as far as events go. Honestly, the resource drive last year could have been in my top 3 patches if it weren't for all the bugs. It's kind of been the theme this entire podcast. I also support the live event aspect of it. A limited time event instead of a permanent edition is always fun. Last thing I would suggest is maybe add some limited edition rewards to the trading. Absolutely. I think those are great call outs, and I can't agree with you more. I think this is a great time to be in Star Citizen. It's for the most part smooth, guys, for the most part. Enjoy this event. Don't rush it. Try not to rush it because it's going to last us until mid-March. And let me know how it's going for you. Join Supervision and join our voice channels and get involved in that conversation. But regardless, If you want to become part of that conversation or learn more about what we do, beyondtheversehq.com for the podcast, soulprovision.com for the in-game organization. Again, our philanthropy with Extra Life, you can do so beyondtheversehq.com/give. 100% proceeds go straight to Extra Life. That goes to children in need in the children's hospitals. So please, by all means, means a lot to me, but more to the kids, obviously. I think there's no more administrative updates or alerts. Guys, I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care.